guys, and welcome back to my channel. So this is the second part of the closed Sicilian series, and in this we are going to see the sixth move, E5 variation. So if you haven't checked out the first part, link is in the description. Go and see the first part and then come back to see the second part. So after E4, C5, Knight C3, Knight to C6, G3, G6, this is the closed Sicilian. Bishop to G2, Bishop to G7, D3, D6, we play F4, and now we have seen Knight to F6, which is the main line in the first part. If you haven't seen that out, check that out. And today we are going to see the E5 variation. So after E5, the general square for the development of the G1 knight is obviously to F3. But in this case, this is not very effective, because after knight G to E7, castle, castle, bishop E3, E takes on F4, bishop takes on F4, H6, queen D2, G5, bishop E3 and bishop to E6, we find out that black has no problems and he might be the one who can attack on the king side. So this is the reason that we don't play knight to F3 and instead develop it on the other side, which is knight to H3. Which at first sight looks very unusual. But the main idea for knight to H3 is that if he takes E takes on F4, we can take knight takes on F4, and this knight is very strong. So this is the whole point of playing knight to H3. So coming back, so this is the game we are discussing of Bilek and Georgiou. This was played in 1968. And by this game we are going to understand this E5 theory. So after this, Georgiou played knight G to E7, and after both sides castled, he played F5. So after knight G to E7, white castled, and here black innocently castled, and then white played F5, and this right here is the start of a very important and a dangerous attack. The other variation, instead of black playing castle on the 8th move, is to play knight to D4, and this we are going to discuss in the next episode. So in this we are going to see what Georgiou played, which is he innocently castled, and I'm sure that many of your opponents in the tournaments will innocently castle because nobody can suspect a move like F5 in this situation. Because after F5, the natural looking G takes on F5, we can see that white is losing a pawn. But after E takes on F5, there are two moves. Either he can take bishop takes on F5 or he can take knight takes on F5. Let us first see what happens if he takes knight takes on F5. Well, then we play queen to H4, and now we are attacking this, and he goes knight C to D4 to just protect his knight. We play bishop to E4, again attacking this. Knight takes on C2, and now we play rook takes on F5. If knight takes on A1, then rook to F6, threatening checkmate with the queen. And when he plays H6, we just take rook takes on H6, and after bishop takes on H6, queen takes on H6, again threatening checkmate. And after F5, we just play bishop to D5 check, rook F7, queen G6 check, king H8, and after bishop takes on F7, there are many mating attacks, starting with queen to H6 checkmate. So this is the reason why he didn't play knight takes on F5. So let us see what happens if he takes bishop takes on F5. Well, now Bilek just sacrifices rook by playing rook takes on F5, knight takes on F5, and bishop to E4, attacking this knight. Now there are many moves possible after this. He could play knight F to D4, which is what Georgiou played. Other than that, there are two moves. Either he can play queen to D7, protecting his knight, or he can also play knight C to D4, protecting his knight. Let us first see what happens if we place queen to d7 after bishop to e4. So queen to d7, we play queen to h5, threatening this knight. Knight c to d4, protecting it. Knight to d5, h6, bishop takes on f5, knight takes on f5, queen takes on f5, queen takes on f5, and after knight to e7 check, there is a discovered attack, and we are just going to pick the queen in the next move. So let's see what happens if we place knight c to d4. We play queen to h5, queen to f6, knight to d5, queen to d6, and here the obvious looking move, which is knight to e7 for white, is not very good, because after knight takes on e7, bishop takes on g6 and h takes on g6, we've actually given out a pawn, a rook and a knight against the queen, and all our hopes of attacking the black king are now shattered, and hence this is not a very good choice, and it gives black a huge amount of compensation. So instead of playing knight to e7 check, we just play queen to d1, and this is really an amazing move. And after queen to d1, he plays h5, and now again we are not going to play knight to e7 because the same thing is happening. We play c3, attacking this knight. If he goes knight to b5, then we can just take here, because after this is again a discovered attack. And instead, if he goes knight to c6, then we can just play queen to f1, threatening this knight over here. And after knight takes on g3, we can just take bishop takes on g6, knight takes on f1, bishop to f5, and now this knight is trapped. And after knight takes on h2, king takes on h2, we are better. Although it seems that the black has got rook and 3 pawns against our 2 pieces, but you can see that our knight here is very well placed, bishop is very well placed, the bishop can move somewhere, this rook can come here and attack over here, so this is a very good position to play. So coming back, so let us see the main line, which is knight f to d4, which is what Giorgio played. And after that, Bilek just played queen to h5, threatening mate on h7. And well, if he plays f5 in this situation, then just knight to g5, threatening checkmate on h7 square. And after h6, bishop to d5 check, king h8, and queen to g6, threatening checkmate over here. And after h takes on g5, queen h5, bishop h6, and queen takes on h6 is a checkmate. So this is the reason why he didn't play f5 and went rook to e8. After rook e8, Bilek just played queen takes on h7 check, king f8, and bishop to g5, attacking the queen, and also covering this e7 square so that the king cannot go here. If he had played f6 in this situation, then we would have played bishop to h6, and after rook to e7, bishop to g6, covering all these squares for the king, so that now the king cannot go either to f7 or to e8, and after rook to f7, just play knight to d5, again covering the square, and now checkmate is kind of inevitable. So this is the reason why he didn't play f6 and instead went queen to d7, but after that came knight to d5, and you can see all these pieces, the queen, the bishops, they are extremely powerful. Rook to e6, rook f1, knight takes on c2, what else can he do? Bishop to g6, again a strong move. He cannot take this because the pawn is pinned. Knight 2 to d4 and bishop to h6, and after bishop takes on h6, instead of playing queen takes on h6, just queen to h8 is a check and mate. So guys, this was the e5 variation. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, be sure to turn on turn on the notifications. And the knight to d4 variation I will cover in my next episode, so be sure to check that out. Also, if you haven't seen the first part, do go and check that out. The link is in the description. Okay guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.